Trump is selling America a fantasy about a booming auto industry, and the truth is devastating. While the president repeatedly claims that car factories are being built at levels we've never seen, the reality on the ground tells a completely different story. This isn't just political spin gone wrong. It's a fundamental misrepresentation of what's actually happening in American manufacturing. The pattern of exaggeration extends far beyond just auto plants. Trump has developed a troubling habit of making sweeping claims that crumble under the slightest scrutiny. Whether he's claiming 25 million migrants flooded across the border.
We've been hearing from him that Biden let in 25 million migrants. That's up from President Trump's former claim of 21 million. Even that was false. So the actual number is less than half of that, even if you count the millions who were rapidly expelled from the country under COVID-era immigration provisions. So not even close. President Trump again said that President Biden provided $350 billion worth of aid to Ukraine. That's also not even close, even generously by independent expert estimates. The actual number is about half.
When the actual number is less than half that, even counting those rapidly expelled, or renaming government departments to Project Strength.
Didn't it used to be called the Department of War? And he goes, yes, sir. They changed it like in the early 50s. So we won the First World War. We won the Second World War. We won everything in between and everything before that. We only won. And then we went, in a way, woke. That was probably the first sign of wokeness. And we changed it to defense instead of war. And I said, what do you think? How do you think if we changed it back? Would that be a nice idea? And Pete loved it immediately. Some people thought about it. You know, they gave it a little thought. But in the end, we did it. And I have to be honest, it's so popular. I thought it would be met with...
There's a consistent disconnect between his rhetoric and reality. So what's really going on behind Trump's grand claims about the auto industry? And why are industry experts calling his statements outright false? To understand how Trump's narrative crumbles under scrutiny, we need to look at what he's actually saying versus what's happening in the real world. Trump has been making sweeping claims about auto plant construction since taking office for his second term. In March, he told Newsmax that America has automobile plants being built at levels we've never seen anything like it, and they're going up fast. He's painted a picture of foreign companies rushing to build new factories on American soil, driven by his tariff policies. But here's where Trump's story starts falling apart. When fact-checkers and industry experts examined his claims, they found something troubling. There's little evidence of any construction binge of new U.S. car factories. Instead, what's actually happening is far more modest and tactical. Automakers are making strategic moves at existing plants, retooling idle factory space to build vehicles they've been importing, not constructing the massive new facilities Trump describes. The White House, when pressed for evidence of Trump's claims, cited announcements from Hyundai, Honda, and Stellantis. But here's the kicker. With one exception, these were reallocations of investments at existing facilities, not new plants being built. Industry experts were quick to point out that Trump was fundamentally misrepresenting what these companies were actually doing. Greg Mordew, a manufacturing policy professor at McMaster University, explained the reality behind these announcements. Companies like Hyundai, Honda, and Stellantis are likely preparing to accelerate already decided launches to adapt to political realities. They're looking at models coming to the end of their natural cycle and getting ready to announce investments to continue new versions at existing plants. These launches can be positioned as wins for Trump, even though they're not the massive new construction projects he's describing. The pattern becomes even clearer when you look at specific examples. Take Nissan, which has said it plans to make more Rogue SUVs and other vehicles at its plants in Tennessee and Mississippi, while reducing imports from Japan. This is exactly what Sam Faiorani, vice president at research firm Auto Forecast Solutions, was talking about when he said, "We're seeing underutilized plants being filled with products that were previously imported. There is no boom in new builds, but Trump's misrepresentations go even deeper. Much of the capital investment that companies have touted in recent months actually amounts to an unwinding of electric vehicle projects that they had promoted during the Biden administration. General Motors, for example, announced in June that it would retool a factory in suburban Detroit to build gas-powered pickup trucks and the Cadillac Escalade SUV. This move partially reverses a multi-billion-dollar plan announced in 2022 to make the factory GM's hub of EV truck production. This reveals something crucial about what's really driving these changes. Auto companies are pulling back from EV commitments they made earlier in the decade and leaning into production of gasoline-powered vehicles. It's not about new growth or expansion, it's about retreat and reallocation based on Trump's policies hostile toward electric vehicles. The numbers tell an even more damaging story for Trump's narrative. During his first term from 2017 through 2020, traditional Detroit car companies, GM, Ford, and Chrysler parent Stellantis, along with EV-only players Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid, spent about $21 billion annually on average. During the next 4 years under Biden, their spending averaged about $38 billion per year, most of it related to EV and battery production. So when Trump talks about unprecedented levels of auto plant construction, he's actually describing a trend that was far stronger under his predecessor. The massive increase in factory spending during the Biden administration was driven by the industry's huge collective bet on EVs that began late in the past decade. From 2000 to the end of September 2024, companies announced $208.8 billion of investments in electric vehicle manufacturing and the creation of about 240,000 jobs. Of that massive investment, more than half was announced since Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act in 2022. About 3/4 of that investment was under construction or operational by October 2024. As Nick Nigro, founder of Atlas Public Policy, put it, "It's clear that this is part of an ongoing multi-year trend upwards that began under Biden, not Trump." The Trump administration has tried to downplay the value of Biden-era investments, pointing to analysis showing that roughly 40% of investments funded by the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS and Science Act were paused or delayed. But even with these delays, the scale of investment and construction activity under Biden dwarfs what's happening under Trump's current term. Trump's pattern of false claims about auto plants isn't new. During his first presidency, he repeatedly made similar statements that fact-checkers found to be false. In 2020, he claimed that car manufacturing hadn't seen a new plant built in 40 years, ignoring plants built by Volvo and Mercedes-Benz in 2015. He also falsely claimed there hadn't been a new auto plant built in decades, when multiple new facilities had been announced and constructed in recent years. The president has also made unfounded claims about Chinese auto plants in Mexico. He's claimed that Chinese companies didn't build auto plants in Mexico during his first term because he threatened them with high tariffs, but that they started massive construction once he left office. Industry experts found no evidence of Chinese auto assembly plants under construction in Mexico. There's only one small Chinese car manufacturing plant in the country, and it was actually announced in 2017, during Trump's first term. What makes Trump's current claims particularly problematic is how they misrepresent the strategic reality facing American automakers. The moves companies are making aren't about confidence in Trump's policies or a booming economy. They're defensive reactions to tariff threats and policy uncertainty. Companies are reshuffling existing operations to minimize exposure to potential trade penalties, not launching ambitious expansion plans. Canadian auto industry leaders have directly disputed Trump's claims. David Adams, president of Global Automakers of Canada, said the notion that everybody is vacating Canada to produce in the US doesn't jibe with reality on the ground. He noted that while Trump's aggressive tariffs could eventually reshape North American auto production, we're not there yet. The timing of these announcements also raises questions about Trump's influence. Many of the projects he's claiming credit for were planned or announced before he took office for his second term. Construction of facilities, changes in production lines, and major manufacturing decisions typically take years to plan and implement. The idea that companies are responding to policies implemented just months ago with major construction projects defies the reality of how manufacturing works. Industry analysts have been clear about what's actually happening. Building a plant or even increasing production at an existing plant can take years. The kinds of decisions that result in jobs are long-term decisions that don't happen overnight in response to political changes. When companies announce investments or production changes shortly after a new administration takes office, they're usually executing plans that were already in development. The broader economic context also contradicts Trump's narrative of unprecedented growth. While he's claimed record-setting manufacturing and sales, neither is at record levels. Annual figures show that manufacturing and sales actually dropped during his first term compared to the final years of the Obama administration. Factory construction did reach high levels in 2024, but this was the culmination of investments and planning that occurred during the Biden years, not a sudden response to Trump's return to office. The timing of construction projects, regulatory approvals, and groundbreaking ceremonies all point to a multi-year process that began well before Trump's second inauguration. What's particularly telling is how Trump's claims ignore the fundamental changes happening in the auto industry. The shift away from electric vehicles that he's celebrating isn't about American manufacturing strength. It's about policy-driven retreat from technologies that much of the world is embracing. While other countries continue investing in EV infrastructure and production, American companies are being pushed back toward older technologies. This retreat has real consequences for American competitiveness. The global auto industry is moving toward electrification, and countries that lead in EV technology and manufacturing will have significant advantages in future markets. By celebrating the unwinding of EV investments as economic success, Trump is essentially cheering America's retreat from a crucial future industry. The gap between Trump's rhetoric and reality also raises questions about policy effectiveness. If his tariff threats and trade policies were as successful as he claims, we should see clear evidence of new construction, major investments, and significant job creation directly attributable to his actions. Instead, what we see are modest adjustments to existing operations and the repositioning of previously planned investments. Industry experts have been remarkably consistent in their assessment of Trump's claims. Whether it's the Center for Automotive Research, Auto Forecast Solutions, or academic researchers, the message is the same. There's no evidence of the construction boom Trump describes. The changes happening in American auto manufacturing are tactical adjustments, not the transformative growth he's claiming. This pattern of exaggeration and misrepresentation has real costs. When political leaders make false claims about economic performance, it can distort public understanding of policy effectiveness and economic trends. It can also lead to misguided policy decisions based on incorrect assessments of what's working and what isn't. For American workers and communities that depend on auto manufacturing, the truth matters. Understanding what's really happening in the industry, the challenges, the opportunities, and the real drivers of change is crucial for making informed decisions about careers, investments, and community development. The reality is that American auto manufacturing faces genuine challenges and opportunities that can't be addressed through misleading rhetoric. Global competition, technological change, and shifting consumer preferences require serious policy responses based on accurate assessments of industry conditions. Trump's false claims about auto plant construction represent more than just political spin. They're a fundamental misrepresentation of American manufacturing reality. While he paints pictures of unprecedented growth and foreign companies rushing to build in America, the truth is far more modest. Companies making tactical adjustments to existing facilities, not the construction boom he describes. Industry experts, fact-checkers, and economic data all point to the same conclusion. Trump's narrative doesn't match what's actually happening on the ground. For a president who has made economic performance central to his political brand, this gap between rhetoric and reality raises serious questions about both the effectiveness of his policies and his willingness to honestly represent their results to the American people.